recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 598. My name is Eric Nelson. I have my favorite co-host, Corey Romero, with me. Today is Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. Corey Romero, it is Wednesday, March 30th. How does it get to be March 30th already? This is crazy. We're hitting into April. How you doing out there in Utah?
I'm doing great in Utah. Yeah, the weather is definitely March, April weather. You're loving it out here. I think we're done with snow and finally had 3 days of rain, which is great.
That's nice. That's nice. On the show today, we're going to be talking again to Brock Peterson, and we're going to be talking about vRealize ops management packs for compute and storage. My favorite topic. I am just a compute nuthead. I was talking to Brock earlier before the show that I just want to go buy some more hardware. And Cisco has these UCS compute machines that are out there that are popular. I was like, I'm going to go buy one for $1,900 and go play with it. Put it in my upstairs room and just sit and stare at it. I'm not even going to turn it in. I'm just going to plug it in. Nothing. Just going to hang it on the wall, frame it, be happy looking at my Cisco gear. I haven't had any Cisco gear, so there you go. But Corey, I know we've been busy, the last few weeks working on VMware World, and I know you've been working on vExpert. So why don't we talk a little bit about vExpert first? I know you got some of those subgroups that you got. I don't know what you call them over there. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that? Then we'll talk a little bit about VMware World, and then I'll give you the color of the bay, and eventually we'll get to Brock here. So let's hear about vExpert. What's going on, Jan?
Yeah, absolutely. So vExpert program, what's been happening this week is we've got sub-programs. So we've got 10 sub-programs for the vExpert program, and we announced the awards for 9 of them. The awards for application modernization will come out Friday, but the others have been announced. vExpert Avi Cloud Management, Cloud Provider, Desktop Hypervisor, EUC, NSX, vExpert Pro, Security, and VMC on AWS have all been announced. So exciting things. We do have a new redesign coming for the vExpert site. I've had the vExpert pros involved with looking at bugs, reporting, and Martin and I have been fixing some things as they come in. So Martin, I appreciate your work on the vExpert site in the last 2 days. He's fixed a couple little bugs here for us here and there. But other than that, everything else has been going great in the vExpert program. We did have, actually this morning, a webinar with IT Academy, with VMware IT Academy. This morning. If you missed it, check your email. The recording is in your email. You can also go to the vExpert portal and then click up into opportunities in the top nav, and you'll get a list of all of the latest webinars that we've done.
So on the vExpert new look and feel, I know you sent me a link of that so I could go check it out. And I thought it was kind of plain, right? Did you guys actually put any graphics there? I said, I don't see any, pretty graphics of people shaking hands and, stages with thousands of people. I just didn't see all the happy graphics. And it looked like, I thought we were moving to magazine format with tons of graphics and everything.
No. We just went off of what branding told us to do. That's what we did.
I still want it to go a little bit towards, Craigslist with just pure text.
Once we get it approved, I'm doing whatever the heck I want anyway. I'm just
all right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just go with that. So that's fun. That's fun to see that. And I know that we're also working on, improving the app process and making that work go on. So that'll be exciting. Getting to VMware World, right? Before we get to Brock, but we'll loop Brock into this conversation as well. So I'm actually getting excited about VMware World now. There's been quite a lot of stuff going on. So just to remind everybody, the US is August 29th through September 1st. I think it's going to be 3 or 4 days. That one is in San Francisco. So you might want to go look at your hotels. And I would definitely encourage you to come. The numbers that I've heard is maybe 12 to 14,000 people should be there. So it's going to be a medium to large event, so with people there. So I think that's shaping up well. And then Europe, November 7th through the 10th in 2022. And I think that's going to be in Barcelona. I believe I'm correct with that one. So that one is, I think, the same thing, 3 to 4 days, 7th through the 10th. I think that's 3 days. Looking forward to that one. And we're going to have the same stuff that we normally do, Corey. So I think we're doing a Expo Party at both of those like the conferences, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's what the plan is. I have no plans on doing anything else different. Going to the vExpo Party is, one of my biggest things to look forward to on the part in VM World. Other than that, other than just meeting people.
All right, so the
Yeah.
Expert Party's on.
Absolutely.
I know we're going to invite Raghu and the other executives and see who we can get to show up, and thank everybody for the last 3 years of hard work. So looking forward to that. Code experiences, we are working with the open source guys this year, as well as the Tanzu team, as well as the VMware Code team on my team, and we're going to create some code experiences for the whole show. So we are going after kind of like DevOps, secure ops, as well as developers themselves, not like super high developer content, but more like going after DevOps and secure ops and that. So we're going to do some code experiences with all 3 groups, right? Try to make them not just PowerShell at the VMware Code stuff, but a little bit more comprehensive. So we're looking forward to that. Then we're going to have a community booth with logger tables, V Brown Bag, and VMware Code will have their sessions there. So if you've ever been to VMworld before, very much the same. Don't know if I'll get the coffee bar or not. Maybe we're lucky. We'll have a barista there. And I know that V Brown Bag, Alistair Cook on the V Brown Bag site has a call for tech talks for VMworld 2022. So the post is up. You can go to vbrownbag.com/2022/03/vbrownbag-tech talks-at-VMworld-2022. Go just Google that guy. You can see that the V Brown Bag 2022 talks are out. Just V Brown Bag 2022 VMworld. You should be good enough. And if you have an idea, have something cool. My favorite of all favorite tech talks was taking 50 USB chips drives and making a vSAN storage unit out of them, right? So somebody came in and did a talk and demoed it, and it basically blew smoked in about 48 seconds. So I thought that was kind of cool that it, not only it worked, but it worked for only a little bit of time and then burn up, which, from a hardware guy, that's the best. That's the best.
You have to shut it down at 44 seconds and then recycle it. Cool for a minute. Yeah.
Keep running. USA in San Francisco hotels, there are hotels. I think the prices are down since the pandemic has slowed down traffic. So, definitely go check that out if you're planning to come. We will be there. It will be a full VMworld experience. I'm happy with that. And Brock, I don't know, you usually show up, right? You guys usually have a couple sessions. I know we've talked about that. What's your plan? Do you live in the Bay Area? Do you have to fly up here and stay at a hotel?
I don't. So I'm in Minneapolis, and it's snowing here today. So yeah, it was kind of sleet and rain this morning, turned into snow now, and it feels like winter again.
That bleep groundhog, it's all his fault, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's not ideal. And I just got back from 5 days in South Padre Island, Texas, and it was beautiful. And now it's winter again. Either way. Yeah.
Isn't the groundhog from Minnesota? Like, isn't that like?
I think the groundhog is from Pennsylvania.
Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Okay.
Yeah, wow. I don't know the name. But generally, I try not to pay attention because winter always sticks around longer here in Minnesota.
This is true.
But yeah, so we usually have a big group out there. Our CMBU, so the Cloud Management Business Unit, has quite a few representatives out there talking tech, right? So vRealize Operations, Log Insight, automation, Cloud Health, Salt Stack, all of that good stuff. So hopefully they send me and some others. I love San Francisco. I love VMworld. In fact, we talk about blogs on here, and it was 3 years ago. I was on a flight to Barcelona, VMworld Europe, and I was bored. And I was like, well, maybe it's time to start a blog. So, I went out and created an account on Wix, and my blog started on a flight to VMworld Europe. So, those international flights can be productive.
Right. I always try to do that on flights, right? Like me and an intern one year got stopped got delayed in Chicago where we're trying to get back to San Francisco, and it was like a 4-hour, 5-hour delay. And we had our backpacks full of Raspberry Pis. We had like 6 Raspberry Pis, and we got an area in the airport and made a lab and ran wires, and then we had bought a touchscreen, right? And we then hardwired a touchscreen to one of the Raspberry Pis. We didn't have the right connector, so we just hardwired it. Right, we didn't have solder, but we made it work. We had some electrical tape, and we had this whole spread out, and it was the quickest 5 hours I had ever. Like all of a sudden, it was like 30 minutes to the boarding our flight, and we're like scrambling with this entire lab. So you can use that travel time for some good downtime to do some cool stuff.
Totally, 100%. Everyone is trying their best at the airport, right? The pilots, the airlines, everybody's doing their best, but there will always be delays. So whenever I have delays, I try to be productive as well. Or if you're on long flights, so I think 4 hours from here to San Francisco, so you can get a decent amount of work done. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going. It's been 3 years since we've had one.
Yeah.
So it'll be really nice to get back in front of people.
Yeah, everybody's trying to figure out their COVID strategy too, right? When do you get your booster? When do you get the next booster? I mean, I guess a lot of people, you guys are not over 50. They just announced in the US that if you're over 50, you can go get a shot, right? A lot of people aren't going to do it. A lot of people are. Everybody's managing their risk factor in order to be able to travel, late summer through the VMworld season. So I know I'm going to be traveling, so it's good.
Yeah, so I have taken, 3 or 4 trips in the last few months. So, we are traveling again, which is nice. I unfortunately or fortunately had COVID over Christmas, so I do have some natural immunity, but that certainly won't last till VMworld. But I hope to be there.
Yeah, that absolutely is fun to get back on the road. Sorry you got COVID, but that's life as it continues on. All right, so we have the topic of today, and I know Brock, we had you on. I almost feel like I should invite you to VMworld just to come to we'll do a podcast in the community booth, because I think I've had you on like two and maybe the third time this year, if I'm not correct.
I would love that. If you guys have a booth there and we could do a pod live, that would be super fun.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah. And Corey, I know, have you been talking to the experts? The other thing that I wanted to do a shout out to is just to say, like, does everybody have their passports updated? Because, passports do expire. And if you haven't looked at them in a while, like, got to make sure you get your passports updated so that you can travel internationally. And Corey, I know you're going to go to Spain, so I got to just say that to everybody that's thinking about traveling, maybe they should go dig through their drawer, get their passport out, and take a look at it, because it's like in the US, it's like a 4-month lead time to get your passport updated if it has expired.
Mine is expired. I need to get mine. I need to get mine.
How did I know that?
Corey, definitely put that on the list. You do hear horror stories of people showing up for an international flight. They hand their passport over, and the gate says, "This is expired."
I worked with someone that happened to. Right, he was a manager, and sent the whole team, and on his way, he was like, "Oh, passport expired."
Yeah, that he's talking about me. That happened to me, and my wife went in my drawer and handed it to me, because Corey, that story happened 10 years ago, right?
Yes.
And my passport has expired. So I'm sitting with an expired passport right now from the last time that happened to me. So got to ask people to go do that. So Brock, back to you. So vROps, one of my favorite topics is compute. I love compute. And we're here to talk about the management packs. And you gave us an update about the management packs, but let's just go through the formula here. You get 2 minutes elevator pitch. How long have you been at VMware? What do you work on? What do you do? We'll get into the management packs. We'll do like 5 minutes review that, and then we can talk compute and storage.
Okay, sounds good. Fun. So thanks for having me on again. I always love joining you guys. But I've been at VMware for, almost 3 years now. I came over here as a part of the Blue Medora acquisition. So Blue Medora built management packs for vRealize operations, among some other things. And the TVG, or True Visibility Group, a part of Blue Medora, was acquired by VMware a couple of years ago. I came over in that acquisition. Before that, I was at Big Blue for almost 20 years. So, spent some time at IBM and am loving it here at VMware. Great culture, great products, great teams. So I'm part of the CMBU, or Cloud Management Business Unit, which is a kind of a subset of what they call the MAMBG, which is I forget what it stands for, but we cover the vRealize suite of products. So vRealize Operations, vRealize Log Insight, vRealize Automation, and then things like VRTVS, which we're going to talk about today, SaltStack Config, SaltStack SecOps, Cloud Health Secure State. So quite a few products around cloud management, automation, log aggregation, things like that. So we have a suite of wonderful products, easy to deploy, fun to use. Everything is peaches and cream here at VMware, Eric.
Everything's so wonderful. Yeah. Everything's going so well. I got to say that, like, there's a Moulin Rouge, the movie. There's the guy, the ringleader. He's always like, everything's going so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so that's great that you've been here. Great that you're here. Great that you're happy. Great that you're worrying about management. I come from the days of management where HP, I think it was OpenView or something like that, was the management stack of choice. And now that everybody's come along, there's drivers for every vendor that's building compute, right? Actually has a management interface, right? And then we have vRealize operations management, right? And we kind of sit on top of that layer. And so I got to assume that you have ways of directly managing the hardware through, through the interfaces that the vendors give us, versus connecting into their management stack that then gives you visibility of larger scale. Take me through like that management architecture that exists out in the market today.
Yeah, great question. So it's less of management and more of monitoring. So you mentioned OpenView earlier. So the HPE has a management plane that vROps can connect to. It's called OneView. PowerEdge and Dell has a management plane that we can connect to called Open Managed Enterprise. Cisco has a platform we connect to called UCS Manager, UCS Central. Lenovo has a platform called xClarity that we connect to. So all of those management or monitoring planes have rich APIs generally, exposing objects, metrics, performance, hardware alerts, things like that. We connect to it. We pull all that data back into vRealize Operations. We relate those objects, i.e. hardware, to ESXi hosts that they support, VMs that sit on them, et cetera. So now we can tell you if you're having maybe cooling issues in one of your chassis, if you have some, power supply failures, things like that. Any hardware generated event, we can consume, push it up the stack into kind of the vROps monitoring hub, right? So it's much less about management. All of the credentials that we use will be least privileged, user-only type credentials. We can't do any management. We can take action on events, but generally what we're doing is just consuming, publishing, and moving on.
Do you guys get into, and I know this is jumping the gun here, and probably the answer is no, but do you guys get into some AI when it comes to the management packs themselves for the different compute vendors?
Yeah, so vROps is really a data analytics engine at its core, right? So we use things like AI, ML to predict when hosts, when data stores, when clusters might run out of capacity, right? So clusters, be they large or very small, will eventually run out of capacity if you continue to add to them. So our data analytics engine can tell us, or the user, when that might happen. We have other constructs within vRealize Operations called dynamic thresholding, for example, such that we learn a behavior of workloads. So for example, if you have a workload running antivirus scans or something on weekends, off hours, we learn that to be normal. We prevent things like alert storms. So we don't alert when things move beyond a certain dynamic threshold, right? So I think vRealize Operations is more about being a smart analytics engine and less about just being a strictly monitoring platform. It's really the hub around which things like vRealize Log Insight can send logs into or alerts. Things like Cloud Health or VRA can integrate with vROps such that when you deploy a workload with VRA, you know how much that's going to cost. Things like that. So a lot of AI, a lot of ML, not just static thresholds and alerts that people respond to.
So I'm assuming that 99.99% of all these machines are running ESX, right? And then the stack, so that we're talking to ESX to pull that data up so that you're actually seeing the health mostly of your ESX servers. And you know, do you get up into like what VMs are doing in that layer? I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
Just basically
ESX. No, you're right though. I mean, the vast majority of our customers, of course, are running ESX. There are some that aren't, and we do have solutions for them. But beyond just ESX, right? So ESX is kind of our abstraction layer. Our hardware is below that. So we capture all of the hardware with the vRTVS management packs that we're talking about today. But we do go above ESXi, right? So above ESXi into the workloads. And even in guest beyond that, if we want to get into operating system metrics, we can deploy agents. They're called telegraph agents. They were previously called endpoint operations agents. Before that, they were called Hyperic agents. Telegraph is an open source technology from InfluxDB, I believe. Really nice technology that allows us to get in guest to get metrics at a very detailed layer. I have customers running thousands of those. I have some just running a handful where they want to get certain in-guest metrics or application metrics, which we spoke about a few months ago. Some of those in-guest agents allow us to capture some of those application metrics as well. But yes, we do go above ESXi into the VMs.
Nice. And now I'll come back to reality, which is when we're talking management packs and the hardware management packs, you know, the ones that you call out in your blog, Cisco HyperFlex, Cisco UCS, Dell EMC Open Management, Open Managed Enterprise, Dell EMC Power Edge, HPE OneView, HPE Pro Alliant, and Lenovo Compute. These are all different, you know, classes of server hardware, right? And so, in these management packs, how much do the vendors actually help you with the management packs when you're building these guys?
Yeah, so back in the Blue Medora days, you know, we did have partnerships with them, such that, you know, we would know about certain roadmap items, or you know, we would you know, get a little bit of insight there. But generally, we have our own as VMware. I think we have a certification program with them, such that they're certified, you know, for new versions of iLOS or new versions of iDRAX or new versions of OME, et cetera. But you know, generally, these are VMware developed management packs. That said, they will develop some on their own. So, for example, Dell EMC has a management pack for all of their storage, not all of their storage, some of their storage called ESA, Enterprise Storage Analytics, it's called. So, you know, ours is kind of individually based. Theirs is kind of a group management pack that allows them to connect to several different technologies. So, you know, a little bit of overlap there, but I think that's good in the marketplace.
We
learn things
that are building management packs that you can choose from that all just plug into vRealize operations.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, we learn from each other. I think that some vendors do great work and put out some nice things. But you know, the vast majority of the 55 to 60 different management packs that we do, you know, are our work. So some certification, but that's really about it.
Yeah, and I know that we didn't talk about your blog very much, but I'll just do a shout out. Brock Peterson, BROCKPETERSON, so Peterson.com. So go check that out. And the article is VRTVS-compute-and-storage, compute and storage. So just Google that one. It comes up in, I think, the top 5 blog articles on compute and storage management packs, so you can't miss it, right? Okay, so on that, you know, each one of these guys has adapters, dashboards. You call these out. You have screenshots of the. Is that what that I'm looking at? Is that the blue screenshots are of the dashboard?
Yeah, those are dashboards. I think I have some views in there as well. But you know, the reason I wrote the blog was a few months ago. VMware entitled vROps customers to use these management packs, right? So vRTVS is a suite of management packs. So application, you know, networking, firewall security, things like that. And then down below the hypervisor, we have compute and storage. Previously, these were paid offerings, and now we are entitling vROps customers to use them. So they're out on the marketplace and they are available for anyone that's licensed for vROps. So we're kind of publishing that, right? Getting it out to our customers, out to the public, such that folks that previously were looking for licenses, be they trial or otherwise, can now just grab the pack files, install, and they're off and running. So, this is kind of in coordination with Peter Hagenson and some of what they were doing around the big announcement for VRTBS. Mine was kind of a follow-up to that.
Right. And I just feel like this is deja vu, because we were just talking about the same strategy for, was it these two, or was it these two, right?
It was these two. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was these two. So, the compute and storage are really layers. Above that would be network, and then firewall, application, database in the suite of tools, along with some connectors. But these are the management packs that are now entitled. So customers can just go get them out on the marketplace.
Yeah, so that just means they sucked, so we decided to give them away for free. Right?
No, they're great management packs, and they provide a lot of value in terms of hardware relationship mapping and troubleshooting techniques, right? So now when you're in vROps, right, and you're going through the troubleshooting workbench and you're on a workload and you work your way down to the host, you can kind of see everything that's going on with your host. So I know you were kind of speaking in jest there.
Joking, right?
Yeah, for sure. But
that's
you're
the
right.
value prop, right? Is that hey, it's here. And as we do all these releases and we do all this SaaS service and we're climbing up the stack and we got Kubernetes, I would assume some of these base level core technologies would start to be bundled in, so that we don't have to make extra money. It's ease of use kind of scenario as well, right? There.
Absolutely, right? I mean, vROps is really the platform, and we just enrich that with all these management packs. So you're right, they are there, they're free. Go get them on the marketplace, install them, and make vROps, that much richer than it already is.
So the one thing that I didn't know was you have links here to Cisco UCS. So it's like, wow, I went and clicked on it, and I'm going into Customer Connect and I see all of the packs that are available for. So you have nice links in the blog, but then I went and Googled UCS to see, what kind of Cisco gear could I actually buy and use this? Because I don't have any. I've never been on Cisco gear. And like
what have you been on, Eric? What are you using? PowerEdge, Reliance,
no. These are my go-to choices. It's all William Lamb's fault. Super micros, right? So I got these little super loud super micros that I take them apart and I take half the fans off, just turn them off, right? Because I'd rather run quiet and warm than quiet, warm, and slow. Throttle me so that I can have quiet servers at home. But I also have spent a lot of time with Dell, so that when I did run IT, it was just all Dell, right? So I never really got, and I've known obviously the other vendors that are there, right? HP, I've spent time with HPs, and I've spent time with Lenovo, right? But I've never spent time with Cisco. And you were telling me that like a large percentage of customers that you interact with actually are running on Cisco gear.
Yeah, I mean, the UCS platform is it's an elegant solution. I think that we see all four of the big four: PowerEdge, Reliant, UCS, and Lenovo. And I'm certainly not going to call out who's the market leader there, but we see all of them, and they're all quite good. So UCS Manager has a really, or I should say UCS has a rich management plane, be it through UCS Manager or UCS Central, which kind of aggregates all the underlying managers or domains, as they call them. But this allows us to stay out of 1, 2, 3 different platforms and stay in one, vRealize Operations, as our monitoring hub. And you'd be amazed. A lot of shops are not, they have multiple vendors. They might run some UCS gear. They might run some PowerEdge gear, and they might run some Reliant gear in kind of another area of their shop. So, they're not all totally homogeneous. They can vary. So this is what allows, vROps to be very, very rich in terms of capturing all of that data, presenting it in a single UI, and, making all of our recommendations, be it costing, right sizing, what have you, within that engine itself.
So another off-the-cuff question for you, which you might or might not know, but when you start looking at clouds, and I know that you can go to cloud and buy gear, right? They'll give you gear. Have you been exposed to what kind of gear everybody, is those guys are provisioning?
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah.
I do think of the cloud as somebody else's data center, so I am quite interested in the gear that they're actually running. But I don't know, what AWS is running on, or Azure, or any of the others.
Right. And
William.
I think it's probably some kind of homegrown, but I don't know for
Mhm,
sure. Like I know you can go get designated gear and you can pay for that. And I think
mhm,
I've done it through my team on AWS. Right. Like we've
mhm,
said we need a server, give us a server, and they give us a gear
mhm.
and they give us a spec. I just can't remember what it was they gave us. And I don't want to say the wrong one, so I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, somebody knows. You referenced William Lamb earlier. He might.
Oh
By the
yeah,
way,
I
yeah,
definitely can
shout
get
out
the answer.
to him and his blog. I think he's one of the,
Yeah.
original VMware bloggers. He's been around for a long time, and he
And
puts out
I
a
see that
lot of great content.
Tony Foster is around, and so maybe he'll chat with me because it's got to be Googled to find out what the AWS gear is. I know that Google's cloud, which we also announced some more tighter integration with Google Cloud. They also have running vSphere on their cloud now, and I know
Yep.
they have their own custom motherboards and stuff that they build custom. So it could be the cloud vendors are actually building from scratch boards, right, and
Yeah,
putting them in the racks, right?
I'm Googling as you
Right.
speak here. I'm not
Yeah.
finding anything, but you're
Yeah.
right. We do have a, VMware on cloud solution for all of the hyperscalers, right? GCP, AVS,
Right.
OCDE, things like that. So,
That was like a
beyond,
slow softball pitch over home plate for you to say
yeah,
like, oh, by the
it was
way,
nice.
this is all on the clouds as well, right? Like,
Hey, and that was not at all planned, by the way.
no, not at all. No, I just
Yeah, very good. Very good.
just I'm gonna jump up on stage and slap you too if you tell a bad joke, right? Because that's I'm that quick. I'm just that
So
quick.
generally, I try not to tell jokes just kind of off the cuff because they rarely land for me.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
I just keep it to tech.
I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that. Well, and because you were on the show before, I'm being a little more chatty because
Mhm.
we had you on like the I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago where we were talking about the what were we talking about, the monitoring, the what do you
Yeah.
call
So we were
it?
talking about
Visual,
management packs before. We talked about application monitoring a little
right.
bit. We may have talked about OS monitoring, some things like that. But yeah, your listeners are probably sick of me. Like, hey, get rid of this guy. Can we find someone else?
No, 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 that's not true at all. We actually like you. We wouldn't have had you on if we didn't like you again. So we had the packs for Kubernetes, which you and I forget who else we had your cohort up there in Minnesota who lives blocks
Yeah,
away.
Peter Hagenson.
Yeah, Peter. We had Peter on as well. So okay, so we got
So
cloud. The other, oh, go ahead.
no, you just mentioned Kubernetes. So, I mean, we do have management packs for Kubernetes as well, which also supports OpenShift and some of the others. And we have, lots of folks that are involved in the development of those, that are involved in technical marketing of those. Quite a few TMMs here at VMware. You should get on your pod. I'm sure they'd love to be on. Guys like Matt Bradford and Brandon Gordon. Some of them actually have pods of their own, which I've been on before, but really, really talented technical marketing managers that know a lot about the tech we're selling.
I also like the fact that your blog has a link to the documentation for all the modules.
Mm.
So good job there. Very clean and thorough blog.
Yeah, you can tell so I'm sort of I have OCD, and I think that shows in my blog a little bit, right? I tend to be fairly straightforward about it. Not a ton of videos, a couple screenshots here and there, and the layout is ad free.
Right. Question. We go with the second half of your blog talks about storage, right? So we've just been talking about hardware because I like hardware, but you got all the DMC storage, Dell EMC Isilon, Dell EMC PMax, NMax, and EMC VNX, EMX Extreme IO. The list I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Go to the blog. You got all those guys. I mean, this one for me, I think is more important. I guess it's all important, but storage tends to go bad. And so having these guys and having visibility of when you're starting to get alarms, do the devices actually say when it starts to fix things? Because storage will go bad and it'll start to rearrange things and do fixing. And do you get how healthy this storage unit is?
Yeah. Yep. So, all sorts of topics to cover there. One is that all of these have really rich APIs. And that's how we get all of our data, right? So most often we're connecting to those APIs and pulling data and bringing it back. It's pretty rare that we're actually hitting clusters or arrays or physical devices themselves. That said, any alarms, alerts, health constructs that those management planes are generating, we can consume. So when things start going bad, we know about it. When things start getting better, we know about it. If there are alerts that we want to generate on, things like, Unisphere or any of the Occam, for example, for NetApp, we can consume those. The important part here is that it's pretty rare that I'll run into a customer that has a single storage technology. Right? They always have 2, 3, 4, 5 for various use cases, right? And various price points. And what this allows us to do is establish vROps as our hub, and then bring all of that data into vROps, make notifications from there, relate that storage to data stores, right? So when we're troubleshooting problems from the VM down to the data store, we can actually work our way into the underlying LUN or volume or whatever construct we're relating to. But having 10 or 12 different storage management packs, and not all of these previously were in VRTVS standard. Some of them were in advanced. So we did bring those down to the standard level and then distributed them for free, or as we like to call entitled to vROps customers.
Yeah, I think this is just the message we're hammering back. It's like, hey, this stuff is now there. It's free. Make sure you go. Do people have to install these? I assume that if I didn't have them because they were for pay, and I just went, oh, I'm not going to do this. If I loop back, I should be able to go get this.
You should. So
or do I upgrade and then I get them? Is that what that like?
Nope. So on-prem, you will install them. They're just pack files, like 30, 40, 50 meg pack files that you would download from the marketplace. And then if you have a vROps cloud deployment, you can simply get them, meaning we have an integration from vROps cloud to marketplace. So when you go into the repository, for example, you'll just click get, it'll actually go get that pack file for you and install it. So it's a little bit slicker, a little more efficient in vROps cloud, but it's trivial to install on-prem.
You want to hear a funny story? I get nervous when you say that because it's like, oh, it's just easy. It's just one click. It'll download, it'll upgrade, it'll put it in. It's like, and I start going like, oh, I wonder what my bandwidth limit is this month, right? Because every time my kids do this, they go download another terabyte game, right? It's all it's all just one click, Dad. It's just fine. Like, and all of a sudden I get, my cable company sending me it's going to cost you another $50 because they kept just upgrading everything. But it literally is that easy. And as long as you have the bandwidth and they're not charging you for overages every month, you should be good.
Yeah. And the vast majority of our customers lately they're going cloud, right? So they're going to our SaaS offerings of these services, right? Be it vROps or VRLI or VRA. It's a little cleaner, it's easier, a little bit more cost effective. You don't have any power and cooling, no hardware, all of the SaaS sort of positives, if you will.
And that was my lead in. I actually got to sit and listen to Raghu this morning. He had a management gathering where they were talking to us about next year and how we're moving to SaaS and how we're moving to cloud and that how our customer base is moving to cloud. So it is Raghu's normal chime every quarter. He gets together and talks to us about how we're getting there. And one of the things that was interesting, and this might not be interesting for you, Brock, but it is for a lot of my listeners, is that Carl Eschenbach showed up and did a session. Carl used to be our head of sales maybe 5 years ago. And he basically founded the company with Diane Green and was head of sales for like many, many years. And then he quit about 5 years ago to go off and do VC work. But he came back and it was really fun to hear him talk about the transition to cloud. And one of his biggest regrets that he said that, they asked him, what was your biggest regrets? What have you learned since you've moved on? He goes, our biggest regrets is that we looked back 8 years ago when we looked at like when do we transition into like purely SaaS and cloud and move that into the make the company model that as opposed to package enterprise deals. And he was like, my biggest regret is that we looked at it 8 years ago, trying to think, when do we shift the company? And at that time, we just put it down the road. We said, no, we sell all these ELAs. He says, but now I look at it and I go, man, if we had just done that 8 years ago, it would be easier, because now we're just bigger. And to move a company into SaaS and cloud and, consumption-based billing and all those things, it was interesting to hear him say that, yes, we're headed down that route. And if we had gotten started 8 years earlier, we would have been a smaller company, and we could have grown our customers could have grown together with this. Now we have to shift everybody together into this space, right? That's fine. But it was interesting.
Yeah, he spoke a couple of weeks ago at our Sales Worldwide kickoff, and it was quite good. So, I wasn't at VMware when he was here, so it was interesting to hear from him. There's a lot of interesting points around movement to SaaS, right? Be it one of the hyperscalers, or be it with a company like VMware. And it's interesting which products are going, or which hyperscalers are going, and which products they're choosing to consume via SaaS offerings. For the vRealize suite, it's relatively straightforward, right? Our products run as a service. You log into VMware Cloud Services portal, they're presented as service tiles, and then we just plop a cloud proxy or a bunch of collector VMs on your private cloud, i.e. your data center, on-prem, whatever you want to call it. And that acts as our tunnel in to see all of that information. I think that's transitioning as well, right? Because we do see customers evacuating data centers, going to 100% public cloud offerings. But I think it's going to be a little bit of both for several years to come.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it is nice. You're enabling it. It's great that you're coming through, giving this. I mean, when you get into cloud, you're not managing the clouds. You're using the app as a SaaS service. You're connecting a tunnel back to your data center, and you're just managing your stuff. And you don't have to worry about how often do you guys upgrade this stuff. Like, do you break us every once? I hate you guys, because every time I come in and I go to use my SaaS service, it's got a nice upgrade, but I got to spend like a day figuring out what happened.
So it really depends. Some of the products have, a monthly upgrade schedule. Some have a quarterly upgrade schedule. But, the nice part is that if you don't want to upgrade, if you don't want to be at the very latest and greatest, you can put that off, right? So, vROps 8.6.2 is out right now, whatever the next version is, be it 8.7 or 9.0. If you don't want to go to it immediately,
you just turn that off.
You can just check the box and say, give me the next one. So sometimes the UI will change a little bit. But much like any of your social media profiles, you get used to that new UI and you come to love it, right? So we're trying to be very efficient with our UI layouts such that they're consistent. They're the same. So Ops looks like LI and LI looks like VRA. So you have a consistent experience when you're consuming those offerings.
Yeah, I think that's my problem. I just go and find those checkbox and turn it off, because I run a handful of Windows machines here running different loads, and like that I must have auto upgrade on them, because they auto upgrade, and next thing you know, I'm spending an hour to IT trying to solve one little obscure issue that happened because it upgraded itself and something didn't like something. So that's my own issue. That's cool. Yeah,
I have customers that have migrated. None of them have gone back, right? They love the SaaS offering. It's very little care and feeding compared to maintaining on-prem clusters and cloud proxies and all of this stuff. The vast majority of them are going cloud, and they love the experience.
So one other thing that came up that Carl mentioned in this session, and I got to be careful because I'm sure it wasn't public domain stuff, but I think this is clean to say. He's like, there's definitely a different IT role for IT administrators, right? That when you start, and companies are moving to cloud services because they can focus on the business value, right? Versus focusing on the technology, right? That enables business value. They're actually focusing on the business value of moving, and that affects the IT administrator's job, right? So
for sure it does 100%. 20, 30 years ago, you have a Windows administrator team, you have a Unix administrator team, and they basically do their own thing and they apply patches and this, that, and the other. Now they're very much DevOps teams, right? So, you have, of course, you have administrators, but they also write code. They also build applications. As part of VRA, right? Infrastructure as code. Within VRA cloud templates, you write YAML to provide workloads. So the IT administrator is really much more of a DevOps engineer, in my opinion, today.
And especially when you go to cloud, where all of the system setup and all the
Mhm.
managing is done by the cloud vendor, and some in Alaska or wherever they can get cheap AC, right? Like as long as they got fiber optic lines to everybody's data moves very fast, low latency. So that means that your IT role has slowly, when have we been we've been out of the rack and stack machines and cabling for quite a while now, right? But you've still been in, the traditional running, installing and configuring .conf files for your friends, right? Like now you're stepping even one level above that, right? Where the service itself is run by the vendor, like VMware's doing the conf file configs, editing config fish, making sure everything works together, upgrades it together, so that role as you as a IT software guy kind of is shrinking, right? And now that role of application management, right, and the application monitoring and maybe security in the cloud is expanding. And that was one of the mentions that he said, was that that he's talking to customers, and the security role has actually ballooned, because as you're running things in public clouds, you have to worry a lot more about security.
For sure. I mean, there's entire disciplines around it, right? Like DevOps was the first one, and then of course there's FinOps, there's SecOps. I mean, we have a product called SecOps, right? So all of these have been sort of abstracted such that you're not adminning the tool or the platform anymore. You're using the tool to provide value back to the business. So it's been a bit of a transformation, but one that's been fun to see.
Yeah, and as a guy who manages community, and the community has traditionally been letting IT administrators share how to configure stuff and build stuff, it is one of these things that I look at all the time, going like, what new social tools, what new community platforms do we even need to share anymore, right? Or do we really just need to have podcasts like this that are talking about new features in the SaaS menus that you're going to use from the cloud vendor or the SaaS vendor that actually, and to some degree, this interview is a little bit like what the new role of the IT guy is going to be. It's going to be using SaaS menus and knowing what services are out there and how they show up, and are they for free or do they charge?
So there's a couple things that I love most about the SaaS offerings. One is that it gets you out of the care and feeding business and more into the business value business. The other one is that all of our development is being done cloud first today, right? So all of the new features, all the new function, all of the new goodies are put into our SaaS offerings first. Right. So, a new version of vROps might come out next quarter, a new version of VRA next month. Right. So all these upgrades happen. I just upgraded my VRA box this morning, I think, to 8.7. Well, the on-prem versions of those, I don't think are going to be out until VMware World. So, you get all of the new goodies right away. And if you don't want to get them, fine. Turn the dial. Don't get them until a couple months, and you're more comfortable.
Off. I'm to negative off, right? I want to be down revved whenever I can, right?
Right. But I have customers, they want a certain feature, and if it's coming out in the cloud next month, they get it. They get it right away. So
yeah. No, and I love it, because we on the community platform that we run, which is called Koros, right? They just let us know that they got a new event package that they're going to give us for free. To your point, right? Like they're like, it used to be every time the SaaS package vendor would say they got something new, they'd come in and go, that's going to be more money. You need to buy that. There was a sales process in every new feature that came along, right? But with SaaS now, they're just in time. They're going so fast that it slows them down to provide me value by trying to sell it. Just tell me the up yearly price and just enable this stuff. And so they have. So to your point, right? Like it's like, oh, we got the event. It's going live. They ask us if it's okay to go live in our environment. So they were polite about it, right? I apparently didn't have the right checkbox, so I'm good. But yeah, like I'm getting that feature. And guess what? It's a feature that I don't have to do a deal, and cut a new PO. It wasn't the money, it's the hassle, right?
Yeah, right. A big ELA, a certain timing within the quarter. Like, hey, I want this feature. I want it now. Can you turn it on for me? Sure.
Yeah, and I think Tony Foster in chat mentioned too that he actually likes the APIs, right? Like he just likes the idea that, you know, you can still have a job, but you don't have to just run GUIs. There's new releases of APIs that are also available.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all of our products have rich APIs. I was just working on some Postman stuff with one of my customers the other day around the vROps Suite API. They're trying to pull out alert definitions and massage those and put them back in, and they're all there. In fact, Ops, for example, I think went to the Swagger-based documentation for vROps back in 8.2-ish. So, you know, even the documentation has gotten quite rich along with the technology. So if you want to go UI, go UI. If you want to go API, go API. You know, a lot of the product is there. For example, SaltStack, you know, a part of VRA at this point, very much you know, open source sort of CLI driven product that, you know, we put a UI on top of with RBAC and some other things that, you know, allow it to be an enterprise offering, but the options are there. You just have to consume them.
All right, so I got one other thing that came because we have a few more minutes left, and I want to ask you this. Carl Eschenbach, he just literally he made me cry back in 2012 for his Believe speech at Sales Kickoff, but because he was just so inspirational, he just literally brought tears down. And about a third of the audience also remember that as the cry moment with Carl, right? Like it was crazy. Yeah. But one of the things he said in his session was, and I want to get your perspective on it. I'm trying to remember what it is now. I've lost it. What did he say?
You were talking about his Believe speech.
Yeah, I know it was his Believe. That was his Believe speech, but that was just an entry to what he actually said about customers. I don't remember what it is. Darn, I've lost it.
Well, yeah, I can tell you, I very much believe in the Believe mantra, which Ted Lasso has, you know, brought into popularity. I love that program. I love kind of the meaning behind it. And, you know, I very much believe that, you know, when we're all kind of moving in the same direction, that we can go far.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't a Believe thing. But he was talking about the role of the IT administrator and what the IT administrator is transitioning to, and how that's going to work for enterprises, and how enterprises have to buy cloud and moving enterprise forward. So it was really good what he was talking about. So I'll let it rest at that and go like, okay, we missed that last point, but I'll remember it and I'll put it in chat somewhere. Maybe I'll tweet it out later because it was listening to Carl was great. Right.
Yeah, I would love to see it. If it's on YouTube, please send out the link. I would love to have a look.
And it was just a Carl Eschenbach works as investments. He, for instance, ran and managed investments for Snowflake. So he works for VC up at Sand Hill and still lives around here in Los Altos, Palo Alto. So it's fun to hear him. And he was talking about what he gets in a VC and then how that relates back. And some of these vendors he invests in nibbles on. He says, you know, I'm partly, you know, there's always these nibblers who are always nibbling at your heels, right? Trying to take part of your market away. He says, and I fund some of that, right? So he had good observations up and down from IT practitioners' roles. And he was only on for like 10 or 15 minutes, but man, he was really good. And he did have one other observation, but I can't remember what it was.
Sometimes the shortest, the most condensed ones leave the biggest mark.
Yeah, leave the biggest. He did say keep things simple, right? Should always keep things simple. He sees startups that he says if there's sand in the gears of a startup, they do really well, but then they start slowing down. He says inevitably it's their own fault. They get overcomplicated, and so I have to come in and I have to say just get rid of the complications, right? It's all good. So it was a fun conversation. I know we're at the last 3 minutes of the top of the hour, so I will say that you know you're living out there in what is it, Montana? No, not Montana.
It starts with an M. Keep going.
Exactly. You know that state is the furthest northern part of the United States. You have that little spot in Minnesota that juts out.
It's called International Falls. Way up north. You know, gets to be like minus 60 in the wintertime.
So did you take the hint and go out and barbecue for this show?
I did not, unfortunately. Like I said, I was down last weekend. I was down in South Padre, and man, we had some great food down there. Some great fresh seafood. oysters, redfish, a lot of shrimp. It was great. But my friend Peter Hagenson sent me a link this morning with a new. I think Traeger just released the Timberline 85, 9500, something like that. So their latest and greatest smoker, it's something like $4,000. So I probably won't fit, but it's on the wish list.
Nice. Tony Foster's here. Tony Foster, I think you did some barbecue this weekend as well. What'd you do? Don't tell me you did a brisket.
I did.
You did a brisket? Everybody does brisket.
I did do a brisket, actually.
How did it turn out? How did you do it?
It turned out fantastic.
Do you use
for about 5 hours?
Do you use a meat thermometer? No.
I have one. I did not use one on this particular instance. I just went with the gauge that I have on the front of my smoker.
Just ran it by ear. I watched a YouTube video where a guy was doing brisket, and he was all about the thermometer and keeping track of the temperature in the meat, and that he swore by that. Yeah.
So I've probably done, I don't know, 10 briskets, and if I don't use that internal heat thermometer and take it to 204 or 203 or something, it turns out not good. So you have to get it to 204 for me, internal temp, and then take it off, let it rest for an hour, and it's amazing. I'm a believer in the wrap, maybe 5 hours and then wrap it. But brisket's tricky. It's not as easy as just throwing a pork butt on there or a whole chicken.
Wow. Especially if you live in Minnesota, right? You got to deal with the ice storms that are affecting the temperature of your barbecue unit.
But we do smoke meat all winter, no problem, up here in Minnesota.
All right, we're at the top of the hour. It's 1 o'clock. It's Wednesday. Brock, always fun to have you on. I would invite other guests of those topics, but then I wouldn't be able to have you on as much. So we're just going to grow with that. Thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate all the work for VMware. And it is lunchtime, so everybody go get some fun barbecue. And if it's not lunchtime, too bad for you. We'll be back again next week, as we always are, live Wednesday, 12 to 1. If you want to, you can go to vmw.re/pod, and you'll come into the live chat. You can say hello to Tony, myself, and others, and every Wednesday, 12 to 1. Thanks a lot, Brock.
All right, see you guys.